Well, I think where this organization is going, there's some really lofty goals here, from the ownership level to Al to baseball ops to I know the players who have poured in a lot of development up to this point, and I know there's been a couple tough years, and I think that you have to look at where this organization's going and then attach yourself to the young players that have gotten some experience here. They're trying to establish themselves as big leaguers. They're trying to learn the ropes at the highest level. Some of them had to do it during the middle of a pandemic. The prospects are real. The players that have gotten to get to the big leagues are real. I think there's a real commitment by ownership. And then when you look at the English D and you put together that with the fan base that's been incredibly loyal to this franchise, it's a perfect match.
Do you believe in the power of a second chance after someone has made an egregious mistake? For the Detroit Tigers, the answer is a resounding yes, giving World Series winning manager A.J. Hinch a second chance at a leadership role following a one-year suspension where he had to sit out of the dugout for a year, following one of the most controversial cheating scandals in league history. But now, Hinch is back, remorseful for his actions and ready to lead again. For the Tigers' part, they believe they've entered the building stage and are ready to win at the highest level with their young talent, with consistent development and growth at the forefront of their resurgence. Drake Riepma, sports update anchor and producer of 97.1 The Ticket, joined me this week and returned to the program to provide some perspective on what Hinch's arrival means for the Tigers. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Jake, I'll welcome you to this show, and we're excited to talk some Tigers baseball with you this afternoon. Thanks so much for being here once again, and welcome back to the program, buddy.
Yeah, Kevin, great to be with you. And you know what? It's the month of November, but I'll talk baseball 12 months out of the year. It doesn't matter when it is on the calendar, especially when there's exciting news like there is in Detroit. And I, for one, am excited about the hiring of manager A.J. Hinch in Detroit.
When I talked to you about 10 days ago, we've had A.J. Hinch at the top of the list, and now it's a reality. So I'll start you off by asking you simply, what do you think of the hire and what it means for the Tigers?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's kind of been a roller coaster ride the last couple of days, just looking in our own division. I mean, you saw what the Chicago White Sox did in bringing back Tony La Russa as their manager, and that just kind of sent shockwaves. And I don't want to speak for others, but definitely sent shockwaves for me all throughout the Major League Baseball world. And I was so surprised with that hire, and that kind of catapulted the Tigers into position to be the front runner for A.J. Hinch. And I'm so glad that they're able to make that move. Now, I know when you hire a manager that was, less than a year removed from one of the biggest scandals in Major League Baseball, and certainly something that will be talked about for years and years to come, that's not going to come lightly. It's going to have its fair share of consequences that come along with making that hire. And I think there's still a lot of fans in Detroit and a lot of media personnel that are still kind of pumping the brakes a little bit and need to be I don't want to say persuaded per se, because they feel the way they do, because, A.J. Hinch was at the center of the controversy in 2017 with the Astros. And so there's almost like this this feeling of, okay, we need to start this new chapter, this new journey with AJ Hinch as our manager, and almost accept it and move past what he was associated with in 2017.
Now,
Well, I understand. It was wrong, and it was on my watch, and I served a suspension for it, and ultimately used that time to learn and grow, and just look back at where everything went wrong. And the bottom line is wrong. And I took full responsibility because I was the manager, and obviously I can appreciate why it's a topic. I know that's part of my story. That's going to be part of my story in terms of my career, because I was the manager, and I feel like I was responsible. It's not the Tigers story, and the Tigers are a story of young players getting opportunities here, of adding to that talent base in the coming years and going to chase a World Series. I'm sorry. I'll continue to be sorry. I'll never forget the feeling of damaging the game, and I'll use those lessons. And I have a lot of experience to share with people throughout the franchise to make baseball better.
Now, Jake, I'm a strong believer in second chances, and as you had mentioned, there are still going to be some people that are not going to be happy with the hiring because of what happened in 2017. But what do you think about what it's going to take to convince these people from a public image standpoint that this is a good move for the Tigers?
Right, Kevin. I think it's a question that's going to be continued to be brought up, not just immediately upon being hired, like the state we're in now, but 6 months from now, a year from now, and I, for one, am thinking that yes, it's going to take some convincing, and AJ Hinch, to his credit, addressed these exact questions when he was on the radio earlier this week on our airwaves on 97.1 The Ticket, and just said, look, I understand that this is always going to be attached to my name, and he felt remorseful, and whether you're, as you mentioned, someone that believes in second chances, I also believe in second chances, but make no mistake about it, it was something that he was associated with that required all kinds of a suspension and being removed from baseball because it was such a horrible mistake that he made and he allowed to have happen. And whether you believe the reports that are out there or not about him wanting to put an end to it, he addressed that on the radio earlier this week and said that he wished he would have done more. And looking back on it, he's so sorry that he didn't put an end to it. And if you choose to believe the guy for his word, then I think he said a lot of the right things in the first couple of press conferences. And again, it's going to take some time. Everyone's a little bit different. You can't tell people how to feel, but what you can tell, and I think AJ Hinch did a masterful job of this, is don't associate what he did in 2017 as the Astros manager with the Detroit Tigers. It has nothing to do with the Detroit Tigers. And he went on and named player by player. It has nothing to do with Miguel Cabrera. It has nothing to do with Matthew Boyd. So don't associate his mistakes in the past with these current Tigers. Let's look forward. Let's continue to move on. And for the Tigers and their new chapter of having a manager, it's all about moving forward in 2020.
Now, from a baseball perspective, you couldn't get much better from a managerial perspective if you're Detroit, especially considering the fact that they believe they're in the second phase of their rebuilding process. So what do you think from a baseball perspective the hiring of Hinch means for Detroit?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're a baseball nerd, as they say, you could wig out with some of the exciting characteristics with AJ Hinch. He's a guy that believes in analytics, but yet he has the proven track record that he doesn't let analytics, completely dictate what he does. Of course, you and I both know what happened at the end of the World Series there with taking Blake Snell out of the game. And so I don't think he's going to be a manager that is absolutely controlled by analytics, yet he's able to incorporate it into his managerial approach. And I also think he does a great job of connecting with players, both young players, rookies, and which the Tigers, maybe not necessarily rookies, but younger players that the Tigers have plenty of. But he's played in the league. He played for the Tigers for a short stint, so he has that ability to connect with veteran players that are. If just to reiterate that this is a manager in AJ Hinch that connects with young players, and he's has a proven track record in developing young players, which is exactly what you want for where the Tigers are right now. You can pick a name out of a hat, and chances are, it's somebody in the Detroit Tigers organization that could benefit from a guy like AJ Hinch. And he's someone that's proven that he'll get the most out of his players. And, whether it's Harold Castro or Jamer Candelario or Christian Stewart or anybody that needs, anybody in the Tigers organization can benefit from taking that next step in terms of player development. And I know I just went off the cusp and named a couple of random Tigers, but from 1 through 9 in the starting lineup, they're going to benefit from AJ Hinch as the manager. So I think it's an exciting time in Detroit. It's exciting to have a new manager steering the ship that, yes, he has a track record and was associated with that scandal in 2017, but he's truly remorseful. And I think he's looking forward to rewriting his legacy as the manager of the Detroit Tigers.
Now, in terms of building up the Tigers' national profile, how do you think the hiring of Hinch will help with that? And do you think he'll be able to attract free agents here to Detroit as well?
Definitely. I think the Tigers are, an organization and a franchise that has such a storied history, but in the last couple of years, they've obviously drifted away from that storied franchise that they've been in years past. And for whatever reason led to that. Baseball is a very, very challenging sport to maintain, and any sport, it's tough to maintain and stay at the top and at the, to be a quote unquote dynasty. But the Tigers now, like you said earlier, are in that rebuild, yes, but they're starting to take those next steps in that rebuild to become a national contender again, and to become a team that is known throughout the country and is known throughout both the American League and National League as a legitimate contender. And so when I think you add someone like AJ Hinch to the mix, who is known throughout baseball for so many different reasons that we've already alluded to, but most importantly, somebody that's going to get the best and the most out of his team, that automatically puts the Tigers back in that national stage and back in that place where they're being talked about as a landing spot for free agents, as another storied franchise that we know these Detroit Tigers are.
Now, with the manager piece of this, Don, what do you think is the next step for the Tigers after they assemble a coaching staff from an on-the-field perspective?
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of wins and losses on the field, I think there's nothing wrong with saying in 2021 this is go time. There's the exciting pitching rotation that we can go on and on about with Matthew Boyd and of course Casey Mize and Scooble and everybody else that you've been in Turnbull, and the names can go on and on that we've talked about at length with these Tigers. And so in year one under AJ Hinch, maybe he can put that into play in terms of being a team to be reckoned with on the field. And as far as the position players, I think yes, it's about the individuals each taking a step forward, but also as a team and just playing meaningful games down the stretch and being in contention, which I have no problem saying with AJ Hinch as your manager, that can be the case for 2021 for these Tigers.
Now, what's the one thing that you're instantly hoping that he improves as the manager of the Tigers?
No, that's a good question. I think you could go a couple of different ways with this one. And I think the thing with Gardenhire is he was the right manager for where they were at the time. And that was, at the very, very beginning of a rebuild, and he brought them up there. And so AJ Hinch now taking over at the helm becomes that manager that you expect them to take the next step with. So what's that next step look like? And again, it's kind of a cliche, so to say, but I think you're looking at to play meaningful games and contend for an American League Central title, and what that will look like on the field. It's winning close games. It's doing the right things on the base paths. It's getting quality starting pitching and quality at bats, and the things that baseball guys like you and I love to talk about, and doing the little things right that will win games. And look at that 2017 Astros team. It was from top to bottom. It was players getting the absolute most out of their abilities, and that's something I hope you see again in Detroit here in 2021.
Could you just tell me your thoughts on how the AL Central, we talked before this started about Tony La Russa taking over in Chicago, and obviously you've got AJ Hinch here. How do you think the balance of power from a managerial perspective has shifted to the AL Central?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, all of a sudden people are talking about the White Sox and the Tigers nationally, and it's been a little while since that's been the case. But I think with the White Sox, it's interesting because they have such a collection of young talent that are also at that point where they need to take the next step. And, no longer are they happy with, making the right thing, making the right plays, and so on and so forth. They want to do more than just the little things. They want to win games, and they want to be in contention for an American League Central title. And then, what the Twins have been over the years. They've been very successful especially the last couple of years with the power hitting that they've had. And then in terms of the powers of the American League Central, the Royals have been down at the bottom, but the Indians are always loaded with talent. And so all of a sudden this division becomes one of the more compelling ones in baseball. And I think compelling is a good way to put it for the Tigers too. This is a team that's interesting, and it will be fun to see what shakes out in 2021, especially when you consider all the new faces and new places in the American League Central, most notably with the White Sox and La Russa and AJ Hinch with the Tigers.
Yeah, my final question for you has to do with something that Bob Wojnarowski from your radio station had asked.
Oh, Wojo!
Yeah, had asked Chris Ilitch at the press conference about investing the money in AJ Hinch, and he said something to the effect of you have to invest into talent. And he had mentioned that AJ Hinch was talented. So do you think the Tigers are now in a position where they'll be willing to spend money?
I do. And it's a fun discussion because it's all hypothetical. There's no wrong answer.
It's not your money, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. If spend away, right. But I do think that under the Ilitch management, yes, with Mr. I before he passed away, he was always willing to spend the extra money, and that always hasn't been the case with Chris Ilitch in control. And so I wonder, now that the Tigers, certainly on the surface level, where they appear that, okay, we're ready to start making those big decisions to spend money and to make the investment, if that will translate into actually doing so. I mean, as a fan, as somebody that covers the team, you're certainly hoping for it. So for that reason, I'll put as my answer, I think it's time, and that he will, simply because that's what I'm hoping for. But you understand that the pieces are in place to start making those bigger, higher profile decisions. And I do believe that the Ilitch management and team will be doing so for the Tigers.
Just one follow-up. What sort of free agents, are there any names that you're hoping the Tigers go after?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of those things where it's for me, there was, of course, the way everything went down with Castellanos and Avila kind of showing his hand, and that was something that you didn't want to necessarily see. So you have to put a little bit more faith and trust in Avila. And it's difficult to speculate at this time, especially in November. I think as the time goes on, we'll start to see a little bit more. But I could be tossed and convinced on some certain guys that are out there. But in terms of specifics, I think you got to kind of wait and let the pros do their work.
We'll wait to see, but it's always good to see you. And thanks again for coming on the program and talking Tigers, Jake. Always great to see you, and thanks for your time, buddy.
Kevin, thank you. Always a pleasure. I enjoy it. And anytime, my friend.